This video you're currently watching is a form of transformative process unfolding right now. This isn't just another piece of online content. If you clicked on this and are here, it's because something within you desired this experience, a shift, a search for fundamental truths within spiritual transformation. In this realm, nothing happens randomly. What appears as chance is simply a law we haven't yet understood. Everything operates according to a guiding principle. The fundamental nature of everything is mental, and everything is in a state of vibration. Your thoughts initiated this, and this video is a result of that. You sense its significance because even if your conscious mind questions it, on a deeper level, you recognize that this is not a mere coincidence. The Kybalion, a hidden body of work protected for centuries by those initiated into its secrets, doesn't become apparent to everyone. It only reveals itself to individuals who are prepared to see beyond illusions and begin the process of changing their own reality from their inner being outward. Your presence here and now is a significant indication. It doesn't matter if you fully grasp everything or still feel uncertain. The essential thing is not to acquire more information, but to remember what you already know. What will be shared here will assist you in precisely that remembering. Because at the conclusion of this video, I will demonstrate how to apply the 7 principles of the Kybalion to fundamentally alter your reality in a practical, direct, and conclusive manner. However, first, you need to hear what only those who are ready can truly comprehend. Long before modern science existed, and even before religions were structured as we know them today, there was a name spoken quietly among priests, philosophers, and initiates: Hermes Trismegistus. He was known as the thrice great, thrice master, and thrice initiated into the deepest secrets of creation. He represents the meeting point of 2 ancient civilizations. In Egypt, he was the deity of wisdom, writing, and time. In Greece, he became Hermes, the intermediary between different realms, the patron of hidden knowledge and divine communication. The merging of these 2 figures created an archetype of such profound power that its influence spanned centuries. Hidden within symbols, codes, and veiled language, Hermes was regarded as the founder of the first mystery school in Egypt, a sanctuary where knowledge wasn't simply given but experienced by those who were prepared to receive it. His teachings were so private and protected that they gave rise to the term we still use today: Hermetic knowledge, a wisdom that is locked and inaccessible to superficial understanding, reserved solely for initiates, like a spiritual vault safeguarding the laws governing the unseen. Approximately 35 works were attributed to him, many of which were lost in the fires that destroyed the Library of Alexandria. However, a small portion survived, and it was this spark that ignited the flame of a work that would endure through the ages. The Kybalion, written in 1908 by authors who chose to remain anonymous, identifying themselves only as the 3 initiates. The Kybalion is not a typical book. It is a treatise, a coded compilation that synthesizes the entire essence of original Hermeticism. While it may seem relatively recent, its foundation is ancient. The language may have been adapted for the modern world, but its content vibrates with the same energy as the hieroglyphs carved into the stones of the Temple of Luxor. This oral and vibrational tradition was never intended for mass consumption. That is why relatively few have heard of it, and even fewer have truly understood it. The first principle revealed in the Kybalion, all is mind, has such a profound impact precisely because of this silent legacy passed down in an almost imperceptible way. Mentalism, according to this fundamental law, states that everything that exists, without exception, is mind. The entire universe, with its planets, galaxies, natural cycles, human emotions, ideas, and memories, is all a living thought existing within the consciousness of the all. For initiates, this is not a metaphorical concept. It is literal. You are not observing the universe from an external viewpoint. You are within it. More accurately, you are within the mind of the divine. Imagine a consciousness so immense and powerful that every thought it has materializes as reality. This is the fundamental nature of the all, the original consciousness, the source. Hindus referred to it as Mahatman, the cosmic mind. Gnostics called it Pleroma, and Hermeticists simply named it the All. But what does this mean in practical terms? It signifies that the reality you are currently experiencing is directly influenced by the quality of your thoughts. Everything originates internally. Nothing manifests externally without first existing within. Your mind is the very fabric of reality, the matrix. Your perceptions, mental patterns, and deepest convictions all act as the brushstrokes with which you are painting your existence. It's as if we're living within a simulation, but one governed by spiritual laws. The most astonishing aspect is that you actively participate in this creation. Your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and vibrational states directly impact the events that unfold around you. This profound truth underlies the teachings of ancient masters. It's why Buddha stated that suffering originates in the mind, why Jesus proclaimed that faith can move mountains, and why Hermes revealed that everything is mental. Modern quantum physics is beginning to find common ground with this ancient wisdom. The well-known observer effect, which demonstrates how the behavior of particles changes based on the presence of an observing consciousness, is just one piece of evidence suggesting that the mind influences matter. So, if the universe is mind and you are a spark of that supreme mind, what prevents your life from being consciously shaped? When you begin to grasp that everything is mind, that reality is formed from the inside out, a natural question arises. Why do things appear to happen so randomly? Why do some individuals experience so much suffering while others navigate life with ease? The answer lies in what the Kybalion directly reveals. Everything operates according to law. True chance does not exist. What we perceive as luck, coincidence, or fate is actually a spiritual law that we have not yet recognized. The universe is not a chaotic jumble. It is a perfect symphony governed by 7 universal laws. These laws do not require your belief to function, just as gravity continues to act whether or not you believe in it. The Hermetic laws constantly influence your life, even if you are unaware of them. One of the most significant of these laws is the law of cause and effect. Everything you are experiencing today is a direct consequence of causes set in motion in the past. Not just actions, but also the thoughts, emotions, and vibrations you have maintained over time. This is karma. This is subtle physics. This is Hermeticism in its purest form. To illustrate this more clearly, I will share a brief story that perfectly embodies this principle. In a village nestled among mountains, there lived an old gardener renowned for his tranquility and wisdom. Every day, he tended his plants with immense patience, even when the sun was scorching or the rain ravaged his garden. A young man from the village, frustrated by his own failures, asked the old man why his life was so difficult while the old man seemed to live in peace. The old man smiled and replied, "Come early tomorrow morning. I want to show you something." The following morning, they carried a seed to the top of a hill. The old man instructed the young man to plant it and then return every day to water it. Initially, nothing happened. After weeks, a small sprout emerged. The young man began to smile, but one stormy day, the sprout was torn out by the wind. Frustrated, the young man exclaimed, "See? Nothing ever works out." The old man calmly responded, "You expect to harvest an oak tree with the patience of a flower. That was just one cause among millions. Your life is the sum of all the seeds you've planted, whether you were conscious of them or not. Some sprout quickly, others take years. Some you've forgotten you even buried, but no seed fails to respond to the law." This simple story encapsulates the core of the law of cause and effect. You are not at the mercy of unseen forces toying with your life. You are experiencing the consequences of the causes you have already initiated or unconsciously accepted. Everything you vibrate, think, feel, desire, or reject returns to you in the form of experience, governed by rhythm and return. The journey is not linear. And it is precisely when we understand that every experience is a result of causes we set in motion that we begin to discern the underlying logic in the highs and lows of our path. However, even with this understanding, There are times when everything seems to crumble. You take a step forward and feel as though you are moving 2 steps backward. This sensation of regression can be disheartening. Yet this too is governed by one of the 7 laws, the law of rhythm. This law teaches us that everything in life moves like a pendulum. Everything flows and ebbs. Emotions, energy, relationships, finances, health, and spirituality all experience a constant oscillation. Sometimes subtle, sometimes intense, but it never ceases. Nothing rises or falls indefinitely. Just as the sea has its tides, as day transitions into night, as winter precedes spring, your life also progresses through inevitable cycles. These cycles do not signify failure. They're an integral part of the sacred mechanics of the universe. The financial market, for instance, is a practical manifestation of this law. Experienced analysts understand that continuous growth is an illusion. Periods of correction will always occur. The key lies in not panicking during the downturns and not being deceived by the peaks. That is rhythm. And here is an even deeper insight. Plato stated that the soul evolves in a spiral. This means that even if you feel like you are returning to the same point, you are not in the same place as before. You are revisiting that point from a new level of consciousness. It is akin to climbing a spiral-shaped mountain. You pass the same angles and landscapes, but each time from a higher elevation. What once profoundly affected you now only touches the surface. What once seemed like the end is now merely a part of the path. The regression, then, is an illusion. It is simply the curve of the spiral of your own transformation. Notice how that perspective shifts everything. When you accept the rhythm, you cease resisting the cycles. You begin to utilize the inward phases for introspection and the expansion phases for conscious manifestation. The secret is not in avoiding movement, but in learning to dance with it. And while rhythm reveals that everything oscillates, polarity unveils that everything also possesses 2 sides of the same essence. Life is not composed of absolute opposites, but of variations in frequency along the same vibrational spectrum. What we call cold and hot, for example, are not distinct substances but simply different intensities of the same phenomenon, temperature. The same principle applies to emotions like fear and love, sadness and enthusiasm, chaos and order. These seemingly opposing pairs are connected by an invisible bridge, the degree of vibration. The more subtle the vibration, the higher its expression. Matter vibrates slowly, thus appearing solid, dense, and limited. As the vibration accelerates, matter becomes energy. Faster still, it becomes light. Even faster, spirit. And at the highest point, this vibration merges with the One itself, what we call God. Herein lies the secret of transmutation. You don't need to stop being who you are or attempt to eliminate your shadow. What you need to do is elevate the vibration of what already exists within you. Fear can be transmuted into courage. Attachment can evolve into conscious love. Anger can transform into purposeful action. And pain can become a catalyst for awakening. This is the essence of true alchemy. Not transforming base metals into physical gold, but transmuting internal states, changing the vibrational frequency of a lower state into a higher one without denying the inherent nature of what is being transformed. Just as an alchemist works with fire, carefully controlling its timing and intensity to achieve the elixir, the practitioner of Hermetic wisdom learns to observe their inner states and act with intention to elevate their frequency. This is inner alchemy, vibrational mastery, the awakening of purpose in motion, the subtle cues that guide the path. And it is at this juncture in the journey that something begins to shift silently, yet powerfully within you. A transformation almost imperceptible, yet profoundly impactful. As you apply the Hermetic principles and cultivate the practice of inner transmutation, you develop a heightened self-awareness. With this new awareness, you realize that what you once perceived as your life purpose might have been merely an invitation, a small ball thrown ahead by your soul, not as a final destination, but as a tool the universe used to initiate your movement. How many times have you pursued something with all your energy, believing it to be the pinnacle of your mission, only to discover upon reaching it that it no longer resonated. This happens to everyone who walks the path, and it is not a mistake. Hermes Trismegistus stated, "The path reveals the seeker." This implies that you do not need to possess all the answers before you begin. The veil lifts as you progress. You discover yourself through the very act of searching. Every desire, every goal, every dream that once pulsed within you was a precise reflection of your consciousness at that particular moment. And when your consciousness evolves, your desires also change. This is why so many dreams fade before materializing. Not because you failed, but because you transformed. The version of you that held that desire is no longer in charge. It has been replaced by a new identity, more conscious, more connected, more refined. This is not failure. It is evolution. Purpose, contrary to popular belief, is not something fixed, unchanging, or set in stone. It is alive. It breathes with you. It evolves as you transform. Imagine yourself in an open field, throwing small balls ahead of you. You run toward one, commit to reaching it, dive in wholeheartedly. But along the way, another ball appears. Perhaps it is brighter, feels lighter, or presents a greater challenge. It is natural to want to pursue it. The previous ball was not in vain. It served its purpose of overcoming inertia and propelling you to the next level. Each of these small balls represents a sacred stage. They're what shaped who you are becoming. They're what taught you to trust the movement, to embrace the new, to expand your perception of what is possible. The mistake would be clinging to a ball that no longer resonates with your soul, simply out of fear of appearing inconsistent. But what seems like inconsistency is often just the reflection of a soul that is expanding. And perhaps right now, a new ball is beginning to appear. It might be subtle, like a deep restlessness in your chest, a recurring thought, a desire to relocate, to change careers, to study something you have never considered before. Even if it doesn't make immediate sense, even if your mind tries to dismiss the impulse, there is something there, a new cycle yearning to be born. That is the invitation of awakened consciousness, to realize that purpose is not a straight line leading to a destination. Purpose is a constantly rising spiral. With each turn, you perceive the world from a new perspective, and what once seemed fundamental now feels small. This is not devaluation, it is clarity. You no longer need to blame yourself for changing your mind. You no longer need to feel ashamed for letting go of an old dream. Every ball you chased was necessary. Every path, every detour, every apparent mistake was, in truth, the next right step. Because purpose isn't out there like a trophy to be won. It is within, and it reveals itself with every step, with every yes you give to your process. As long as you continue to throw those small balls, as long as you allow yourself to move with curiosity and presence, the path will never cease to reveal itself. Because purpose isn't about arriving, it's about continuing. And as long as there is movement, there will be meaning. All the laws are interconnected, the source code of the universe. As new small balls appear and your path becomes clearer, you begin to realize that none of this is random. There's a code underlying reality, an invisible pattern that silently weaves everything together, like a spiritual thread connecting all the experiences you have had up to this point. This thread is composed of the 7 Hermetic laws, and the more you understand them, the more you see that, at their core, they're all different expressions of a single wisdom. That is why, when you try to understand one law in isolation, you quickly find yourself touching upon the others. Discussing rhythm inevitably leads to discussing polarity. Understanding cause and effect is impossible without recognizing mentalism. It is like trying to separate the threads of a tapestry without unraveling the entire design. Each law is an aspect of the all. Each one reveals a facet of how the universal mind operates. Mentalism is the structure that holds everything together. It states that all is mind, that everything originates with thought, with creative consciousness. It is the starting point of everything. Correspondence acts as the bridge between worlds. As above, so below. As within, so without. It enables us to interpret the signs of the outer world as reflections of our inner universe. Vibration demonstrates that nothing is at rest. Everything pulses, everything moves, everything vibrates at some level. This law reveals the dynamic flow of creation. Polarity shows that everything has two sides, two extremes of the same thing: hot and cold, love and fear, light and shadow. This law teaches us to transmute by consciously shifting from one pole to another. The law of rhythm illustrates that everything moves in cycles. The universe breathes, the tides rise and fall. Life pulses between highs and lows. This law invites us to dance with acceptance and the wisdom of timing. Cause and effect reveals that nothing happens by chance. Every action generates a reaction. Every choice plants a seed. Reality responds to what you put out, consciously or unconsciously. And the law of gender shows that everything holds within it both the active and receptive principles, the creative impulse and the creative receptacle. Life is born when these forces are in harmony together. These laws form the foundation of the source code of the universe. They're the invisible engine that drives creation. Most people navigate life being pulled by these laws, reacting to their effects without realizing they could navigate them consciously. But those who learn to observe these principles in action, who study and embody these patterns with awakened attention, become the alchemists of their own reality. How to use the Kybalion to change your reality once and for all. And when the seeker begins to perceive this great source code that structures reality, an even deeper truth emerges. The initiate does not fight against the laws. They dance with them. The Kybalion is clear when it states, "The wise man does not rebel against the law, but understands and uses it. The average man is carried along by it, like a log floating on the current. The initiate, however, swims with it, and by doing so surpasses it." Imagine two swimmers in a river with a strong current. The first, unaware of the tides, struggles against the force of the water, trying to move forward through sheer brute strength. In no time, he is exhausted and pulled backward. The second, however, understands the flows, the curves, the rhythm of the waters. He doesn't fight it. He observes, understands, and adjusts his body to glide with ease. He seems to fly over the water. That is the difference between someone living unconsciously and someone awakened to the laws. The first lives in conflict, trying to change the outer world without understanding the inner world. The second changes their frequency and watches the world shift around them. When you understand mentalism, you begin to watch your thoughts. When you understand correspondence, you begin to see how external patterns reflect what's inside. When you understand rhythm, you stop punishing yourself during the lows and start respecting your own rising cycle. True power is not in control, it is in alignment. This is the secret of the masters. They're not trying to force life, they align with it. They create not through effort, but through vibration. And now that you've also started to see all of this, the question comes that changes everything. How do you use the Kybalion in practice to change your reality once and for all? You're not here just to admire concepts. You're here to activate this in your own life, and it's possible you just need to start living according to these laws. Let's look at each one of them calmly now, in a direct way, with real examples, so you can apply them today. Mentalism. Everything starts in a mind. Your reality is a direct reflection of your dominant thoughts. If you think scarcity, you experience lack. If you vibrate fear, you attract experiences that feed it. What to do? Watch your inner dialogue. Start the day with positive affirmations. Visualize every day the reality you want to live as if it's already happening. Avoid negative conversations and content that brings you down. All of that pollutes the mental field. Practical example. Instead of thinking, "I never have enough money," switch to, "I create opportunities for prosperity every day." Correspondence. What happens on the outside is a reflection of what's happening inside. Is your relationship confusing? Look at how your inner dialogue has been. Is your house messy? Maybe your mind is too. What to do? Bring order to the micro. Taking care of your room, your nutrition, your body reflects in the macro. Practical example. Start by tidying up your space before making important decisions. It changes your vibration and clarity. Vibration. Everything vibrates. Everything is frequency, and you only attract what matches your vibration. Want love? Vibrate love. Want peace? Vibrate peace. What to do? Raise your frequency with silence, meditation, nature, music, art, laughter, gratitude. Practical example. Keep a gratitude journal and write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. It shifts your frequency in under 3 minutes. Polarity. Everything has 2 poles. Cold is the absence of heat. Hatred is misdirected love. You don't need to eliminate the negative. You need to shift the degree. What to do? Transmute. When you feel anger, channel it into movement, action, art. When you feel fear, observe how much of it can become awareness or caution. Practical example. Instead of running from sadness, use it as fuel to search for something more meaningful. Rhythm. Everything has highs and lows. No one vibrates high all the time, and that's okay. Accepting your cycles is aligning with nature. What to do? Learn to rest in the valleys and take action during the peaks. Avoid making major decisions during low moments. Practical example. On a low-energy day, allow yourself to slow down without guilt. That is rhythmic wisdom. Cause and effect. Nothing is by chance. Every action creates a consequence. What you're living today is the result of seeds you planted before. What to do? Plant differently now. Change your habits, your thoughts, your posture. Practical example. If you're constantly stressed, check your sleep, your nutrition, your rest cycles. Small causes, big effects. Gender. Everything contains both masculine and feminine principles. The masculine is action. The feminine is intuition, gestation. Balancing these forces within yourself is essential to create a stable reality. What to do? Act when it's time to act. Withdraw when it's time to feel. Value intuition as much as planning. Practical example. Before making an important decision, listen to your intuition first, then apply it with clarity and focus. You don't have to get everything right. You just need to align your being with the law. When you change internally, the universe responds. It always has, but now you're starting to hear it. My friend, if this message resonated with the ancient wisdom we've explored, please help our channel grow and spread this transformative understanding by liking this video, subscribing for more insights, and turning on notifications so you don't miss the next revelation. Don't forget to drop a comment below with your thoughts or suggestions for our next exploration into the principles that shape our reality. Let's awaken together.